Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 290. We're covering movies for the week ending or beginning. It depends on how you shape it. For the week of Friday, April 18th, 2025, movies covered are The Shrouds, It Feeds, Dead Male, and The Ugly Stepsister. Eric Holmes has a recommendation. I also have a recommendation as well. Eric Holmes, how are you, buddy? I apologize. You have to do this on a different day. By the way, we're recording on Thursday. How are you, buddy?
A little tired, but once we're done with this, I will go back to sleep.
You will go back to
work.
What time did you get back from work last night? You were doing some cooking, steaks and whatnot.
We had steak night. A little less busy than usual, but still pretty good. Steak night usually always does well. And then got home late, went to sleep late, woke up early.
Oh my gosh! What time did you go to sleep? 2 in the morning, 3?
Probably like 3 or 4 in the morning.
3 or 4 in the morning. What time is it right now? It's 10. Is it 10 right now?
It's 9 right now.
Oh my gosh! You have 5 hours sleep, folks. Eric Holmes is very dedicated to CinemAddicts. And so is Bruce Purkey over up in the attic. I wish I could say the same. I survive on the integrity of Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes. First off, Bruce Purkey has reviews of The Shrouds. By the way, he also has a review of Dead Male and The Ugly Stepsister. For the purposes of this half of Cinematics, Eric and I will be reviewing the movies It Feeds. Eric will be doing Dead Male. Eric, though, I will say this. You got through most of The Shrouds. The link would not refresh. Yeah. That's fine. You're only probably 10 minutes left. You can't really review it. Is it so far a worthwhile watch for you?
I would say so. It's probably up there with kind of like how when David Cronenberg did History of Violence and followed it up with Eastern Promises.
Eastern Promises, yes, very.
They weren't like sequels to each other, but they had the same kind of feel to it. This has the same feel as the Crimes of the Future, the second one, not his first movie, Crimes of the Future, but the one that came out like
3 years ago, maybe.
Something like that.
Okay, yeah.
It has that same kind of vibe to it.
Okay. All right. So, well, I haven't seen The Shrouds yet. Bruce will have the review later in the episode. Also, for our CinemAddicts Patreon members next week, me, Eric, and Bruce will be recording the Patreon episode. Movies included. We're spotlighting the year 2015. Movies that are being reviewed are Spring. Thank you for that. William just picked Spring for us. Nathan Day, picked Krampus. So Spring and Krampus are our main Patreon movies. Also, next week, we will be doing an assigned Patreon pick, and that goes to Abby Schmidt. She chose Trumbo. I have seen Trumbo. I went to the press conference, and I really love Spring. I can't wait till we deep dive on Spring. I'm doing the research for this month. I haven't seen Krampus yet. So, Eric, are all of these movies rewatches? Oh wait, you haven't seen Trumbo yet.
I don't think so. I know I've seen bits and pieces of it. I don't think I've seen it all the way through. Krampus and Spring I've definitely seen. Krampus is fun. I think you'll like that. And Spring is weird.
Spring is weird. Spring is weird. Is it good? You're gonna find out when Eric Holmes does.
It's that too.
Oh, it's that too. Oh yeah, and it is weird. It is good. It's a lot of things. So, and it's also underrated and underseen. So I'm glad we're doing Spring for our Patreon pick for next week at the end of this month. Now the movies that we're gonna review again are It Feeds. Eric's gonna do Dead Male. But first off, I really want to talk about Dead Male. I'm an hour in. I'm going to be doing an interview with the filmmakers later this afternoon. The reason why we're doing this a little bit late is because Zoom was down at the time of our recording on Wednesday. So everyone's going to get this feed a day later. I don't like to take accountability. I'm blaming Zoom for our problems. Is it okay, Eric, if we blame Zoom yesterday for what happened? It wasn't the fact that we had the time at a certain time. No, it was Zoom, right? They were down worldwide.
Apparently Zoom hit the brakes the other day, so we just zoomed it to the next day.
Okay, so today, as this morning, when Eric Holmes does definitely need to get sleep, Eric will actually review the movie, is reviewing the movie right now. The movie is called Dead Male, and it starts off, it's on a desolate Midwestern country road. There is a man who's bound. He's crawling from the house to a remote postal box right near the house. and he manages to slide in a bloody message into the post office box, a postal box. And when he slips it in, there is a mysterious figure. You can't really see him. He's in shadow, not in shadows. He's blurred away, but you're actually surmising that he grabs that person who left that message, and everything looks very scary within the opening moments. Cut to minutes later, that message is found in a local postal office, which is very intricate because there is this guy named Jasper. He works, he is a dead letter investigator in the 1980s in this pretty big post office. He is in a sort of a walled off, cordoned off section in the postal building, and he looks and he investigates dead letters. And he actually has a, not assistant, but sort of a partner who works at a, what is it? It's not eye repair.
Psychopath, maybe?
Psychopath? Which one?
Are you talking about the guy when the two ladies try to go to talk to him? It's like, you can't go back there.
Oh, no, that's the superintendent who actually is, no, he has an assistant, the guy who is doing the glasses. The one who owns the guy. Yeah. Right. So this guy named Jasper, he's a dead letter investigator. He has someone help him with actually finding these dead letters or dead items within the postal office. And when he comes across this very interesting and bloodied message, Jasper's curiosity is piqued. He starts his investigation regarding this piece of, quote, dead mail. As he begins to piece the letter's origins, it leads him down a violent, unforeseen path to a kidnapped keyboard engineer and his eccentric business associate. Starts streaming on Friday, April 18th. I can't review this. This is an Eric Holmes review. I just wanted to say I'm an hour into it. I'm very transfixed. Eric Holmes, your thoughts on and review of Dead Mail?
This is a cool movie. It's got a kind of look to it, I guess. How would you describe it?
Like sort of like a 16 millimeter filmic look, very grainy.
Yeah, a little bit. Right. I think it takes place in the 80s and
takes place in the 80s. Yeah.
Even the editing kind of matches the veneer they're going for, or the patina they're going for, I guess. But yeah, it starts off as kind of it's weird because the way this movie looks and the way it's set up and how kind of strange the post office is, I thought it was kind of weird because of the 16 millimeter look to it and the strange editing it has that kind of fits for the time. And just a strange opening when the guy putting the letter in gets hit in the head, and then it goes to the post office. I thought maybe the post office was like an afterlife or maybe some sort of supernatural area. Turns out just a post office. I was reading too much.
Yeah, it looked like
too early.
It looked like a really very officious government building, and it looked pretty ominous and whatnot. Pretty officious.
I think the psycho early on, it's like
the superintendent. There's a superintendent who
the one that likes one that likes his job a little too much. I thought there was something weird going on there, and then the Jasper, his buddy, that ends up helping him. Like the whole post office thing seemed kind of weird, so I thought it was going to go in like sort of a supernatural direction. It doesn't at all. I don't think that's a spoiler. It's pretty straightforward. It's just early on I thought it was going there, and it never did. That didn't stop me from liking it, because so once Jasper's sort of looking into this bloody letter he gets, well, oddly enough, he just kind of discards it. At first he's like, whatever.
And then he goes back to it.
Oh, a torn piece of paper with blood on it and an address. I'm not going to look into this.
Right. But then he goes out, and then he sees a father, I think presumably a father and son, and the son needs help from the father because he's actually standing up on some kind of like little mini pole. I think his father wants to teach his son just bravery, and the son's very scared. And Jasper looks at the father and the son, and he realizes the son is in danger. At least the son thinks little kid thinks he's in danger. He's scared. And Jasper's thinking in his head, well, what if I need to help someone myself? So that's how he goes back to the message. And then you think the first 10 to 15 minutes, you think this is going to be Jasper's story, because Jasper actually, you follow him from the post office to where the neighboring area where he lives in. You see his nightly routine after work. Then you see what he's very passionate about. There's something that I'm not going to say what he takes out in the little room where he's in, So it's very interesting. It world builds for the first 10 to 15 minutes for Jasper. And then, like Eric says,
And
the movie
then,
shifts in another direction.
yeah, and then it goes back to, so that thing we saw at the beginning with the
Right.
guy getting hit over the head, we go back further and we see the guy hit in the head and the other guy and how they got to that point that we saw right at the beginning of the movie. And
Right.
normally this is a thing that they do in movies. It's kind of lazy. Like we don't have a good way to start the movie, so we'll start off with the exciting part and stay with boring and then eventually get to the exciting. But I wouldn't say the Jasper part's exciting, but it was off enough and interesting enough that I was kind of because you see the guy get hit in the head and they go right into someone gets the letter. I'm going to look into this. So now you're leaning forward going, well, what happened? And then they cut back to, they show you everything that happens. And then the Jasper stuff eventually comes around again towards the end. But yeah, this was a good mystery and then turns into something else. I can't quite put my finger on. It was the guy that gets hit in the head, he's the
Engineer.
keyboard maker. Like not a typing keyboard, but a musical keyboard. Like this is 80s, so it's like Moog, stuff like that.
Right.
And he's like really talented in what he's doing, and he's trying to make a keyboard that does, I believe, woodwinds really well.
Right.
Because
Yeah, yes.
apparently at that time they didn't do it well, and he was able to. And the guy, supposedly rich guy, that was interested in what he was doing, wanted to basically fund the whole thing. So they kind of develop a business relationship, and then you follow that. And I mean, I could tell you the rest of the movie, but you know, just watch it. It's a good one. You get the, I don't know what to say. Like this is one of those movies. Like you look at the synopsis, and maybe you have an idea of how it's going to go, but the movie never quite goes where you think it would. And it
Mm.
doesn't quite, and even when it does stuff that you've seen before, it does it in kind of a strange way that you've never quite seen. Like, I've seen this thing play out before, but it's not going to play out like you think it is.
Mm.
And even, and
Were
I'm
you
not getting,
surprised? Were you surprised by the third act then? Because you were probably following
I
the
was,
storyline.
I'm not going to give it away, but there's a part like right towards the end where it's like, okay, this is where the movie turns into a movie and it does the movie thing that we've seen a million times.
Mm.
It doesn't do that. It goes in a completely different direction.
Okay.
This feels like a movie that was made by someone that has seen movies and, like we've seen that. Let's see what happens if this happens instead. And it's kind of how the movie kind of progresses throughout.
The movie is directed by Joe DeBoer and Kyle McConaughey. I don't know if I pronounced their names correctly, and I apologize. But again, Joe DeBoer and Kyle McConaughey. They also wrote the movie. The aforementioned two people. I think a lot of the narrative from what I'm seeing right now. So I have no clue. Eric has a clue of the entire thing. The other two main characters in this is Josh, that is the keyboard engineer, played by Sterling Macer Jr. There's Trent, played by John Fleck. Fleck
That
is the
those,
benefactor.
those two are through most of the movie.
Right. Yeah. So I'm halfway through it, and they're very good performances. And we have to also give some props to Thomas Boykin as Jasper. As
I
Eric said,
love him. I love him.
okay, he's
I could have watched the whole movie with just him, and then they go away from that, and it's still interesting. But yeah,
right.
Jasper, because he's such a like cool character.
Yeah, very good
Like he's
character.
just kind of like laid back about literally everything.
Yeah. I will say this about Trent. It is a little bit of a mini spoiler as a benefactor because I don't know, Eric, we can cut this out if you think it's a spoiler, but like Trent, I'm a huge fan of Neapolitan ice cream. Ice cream. So that's all I'm gonna say. I love Neapolitan ice cream.
I
I
don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but Trent was actually eating Neapolitan ice cream, grabbing it by his hand, and just shoving it in his mouth.
Eric, that's a spoiler because I do that too. You're peeking into my soul. So we apologize, folks, for the
No,
Neapolitan.
so Trent's definitely a foodie in this. Like there's a bunch of stuff where he's like
Yeah.
cooking food, but he always goes to the Neapolitan ice cream, and whenever he does, he's like the messiest eater on the planet.
So okay, stop with that because it's triggering. I used to do that all the time. And
You
I'm still
just grabbed handfuls of ice cream and shoved it in your mouth.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I loved Neapolitan because you'd have the strawberry, strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. So I'd get my my little kid spoon and I just
See,
make a
Greg, right
train
there.
right through it.
You're using a spoon. He didn't use a spoon.
Right,
He grabbed it with his hand and started shoving it in his mouth.
fair enough. After this recording, Eric doesn't know this. Maybe we'll do a 2 to 5 minute spoiler with Eric Holmes. He's going to spoil it for me because I want to get his spoiler stuff for our Cinematics Patreon, and I want to ask the filmmakers about the ending of Dead Mail. That'd be pretty cool, right, Eric?
Yeah.
So that'll be for our Patreon members, and then we'll release it a week later over at our Deepest Dream YouTube channel. So, final thoughts, Eric Holmes on Dead Mail. By the way, it streams on Shudder exclusively. Shudder and AMC Plus. It is. Is it? Wait. Is it Shudder? Yeah, Shudder and AMC Plus. Starting Friday, April 18th. What is your final thought and rating on Dead Meal?
This is a really good movie, kind of outside the box, a little different than. Actually, if you ever seen Lose, not Lose the Flower of Evil, but the movie Lose, the guy that did Cuckoo.
Oh no, I love Cuckoo. Did you ever get around to watching Cuckoo? Not yet, right? Not you haven't done.
No, I saw that.
Oh yeah, you do. Okay, so you like Cuckoo.
But his previous movie Lose,
very good.
It is. I love it. I guess Pete reviewed it on Middle Class Film Class, and I don't think he liked it, but I did.
Okay,
but Dead Mail has the same look as Lose. So if you've ever seen that, then you know kind of a little bit of what to expect with Dead Mail. But it's got a good look to it. Pretty well written. Characters are great, and it kind of sets you up for the movie thing, and then just kind of takes a little different turn than you might expect in certain areas. So sometimes it does exactly what you think it does, or what you think it's going to do, but other times
Okay, so
takes a left turn when you expect to make a right.
Is this a 4-star for you, Eric? What do you think?
I'm between 4.5 and 5. I'll just go 5 because I'd watch this one again for sure.
5 stars for Dead Mail for Eric Holmes. Well, that's a very pretty big boy rating.
Not quite 6.9.
Okay,
but it's 5 stars.
5 stars for Eric Holmes for Dead Mail. Again, streaming on Shudder and I believe also AMC Plus on Friday, April 18th. Next up is a movie that both Eric and I have seen. I'm a little bit nervous because I ended up liking It Feeds and digging It Feeds, and I was telling Eric, please see this. And whenever I recommend something, I just hope and cross my fingers that Eric actually at least gives it 3 or 3.5 stars. Hopefully, this is actually a worthwhile watch for Eric. This is, I don't know, a little less commercial than your average, like maybe Dead Mail, like the aforementioned Dead Mail, but this is a movie that I feel hits pretty much all the right bases. Here's the plot line for It Feeds. Quote, a young girl named Riley, played by Shailene Martin, insists that a malevolent entity is feeding on her, and her worried father, Randall, played by Sean Ashmore, he struggles to protect his own daughter. To save the girl before she is consumed completely, a clairvoyant therapist named Cynthia, played by Ashley Greene, must confront her own personal demons. Ellie O'Brien also stars as Jordan, who is Cynthia's daughter. Okay, so Jordan is played by Ellie O'Brien. She's a daughter of Cynthia. Cynthia is a clairvoyant. Okay, the plot line is a little bit mixed because the actual execution of the narrative is pretty much different. And I don't want to really spoil it, but I will say this. A lot of the movie deals with Cynthia and her daughter trying to reconcile. One of them really wants to help this troubled young girl. The daughter wants to help this troubled young girl who believes that there's this big entity who is feeding on her. The daughter wants to help her, but mom does not, because the mom understands that their own personal demons has affected their family. Namely, the father of the family has since passed on. So it's a push and pull between the mother and daughter. And when
the mom knows what they're about to walk into. She's like, right. No, we're not doing this.
Yeah, we're not doing this. It's because, she's mature. She's older. And the daughter, the younger daughter.
She's dealt with it before, presumably. Pretty sure she's dealt with it before because she knew almost exactly what it was as soon as she saw it.
Yeah, and it's sort of symbolic because when you're older in general, you're going to know literally or in a supernatural fashion what demons are out there for you to face. The daughter, maybe she knows, but she's still young. She's in the act of not just protecting her family or protecting herself. She wants to help other people. So I thought that was very interesting with It Feeds. I don't know how far we want to get into revealing the rest of the plot, but let's just say the third act where there's a confrontation, we mentioned demons, is insane. Okay. And I loved it. I don't know if Eric did. I enjoyed all of the performances in this movie, especially Ashley Greene and Ellie O'Brien as a mother-daughter duo. really loved their bond, and there's different genre trappings within it feeds. There's supernatural horror, there's a chase sequence, a race against time sequence, there's a family dynamic sequence. I'll let you, Eric Holmes, take it away with your review of It Feeds.
So I'm gonna start with the things that bugged the hell out of me about this one.
Okay,
Because
sure.
there's only two of them. One of them was early on. The mom says the world believes in science. They don't believe in
Ye-
spirits or something
Spirits
like
or
that.
yeah, whatever they do.
And
Yeah.
the weird thing is, like, what she does is falsifiable, improvable. So, like, obviously, this is a movie, but when you have a certain power and you can show people it and you can, you know, basically show evidence of it, that's science.
Right,
You,
because she
you, you
probably
made
has
a
data to back up.
you made a claim, and now you've presented the evidence of that claim, and it's pretty strong because she can just do the thing that she says she can do.
That's true. That's very
And
true.
so when movies kind of set themselves up like this and like, oh, they believe in science and not spirituality. I'm like, no, it's like a Marvel movie. I don't believe in magic. Well, there's Thor. Okay, now I believe in magic because there's Thor.
Okay. No, that's fair. That is
So that kind of bugged me a little bit. Didn't make me hate the movie. What really got on my nerves is the sound mix on this.
Oh, really? Oh.
So I'm watching this after I got off work, and I watch the TV, have the speakers on, and people are talking real quiet. And
Oh,
then the scary
really?
thing comes,
Really?
and I'm like, oh, sorry,
Okay.
it's family show.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh crap, I gotta turn it down. And
Right.
then the loud noise happens, and the loud music happens for a long period of time, and then people start talking.
Oh.
So I turn it up again to where I can hear them talking. And big scary and
I
that
didn't
big
get
noise
that.
again.
Okay. All
Oh
right.
yeah, the sound mix on this is obnoxious as hell. And it
Mm,
does it, and I get why they do it because they're using it to, do the jump scare thing.
right.
But it wasn't, the jump scares weren't scary, they were just
Yeah.
annoying. Uh,
Right.
and this movie didn't need to do that.
Mm,
That this had a good enough story to it, and it was creepy enough, especially the thing that the mom sees. It
mm.
was creepy enough that just play it straight. Like, don't worry about the jump scare. You're not that kind. It'd be like, was it the Black Phone
Yeah, the
with
black
Ethan
phone.
Hawke?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't have a bunch of jump scares. It didn't need it. The movie was creepy enough and scary enough on its own.
Yeah.
That's kind of like it feeds. The setup and the things that happen in it are creepy and scary enough. They don't need that obnoxious sound mix that they did to it. I would say if you watch this in theater, maybe it's a different experience. I don't know. Probably better, I'm guessing. If you end up watching this at home and there's other people in the house with you, just wear headphones. And the noise is going to be annoying then too because it's too loud, turn it down. But
Oh, interesting. I did not get that. Maybe I should play it again, but I didn't have that same feeling on
but
sound mix. Yes.
other than that, those are my two things I didn't like. Everything else I loved about it. Just the
Okay.
story, the and we talked about like the mom knows what's up, so she didn't want to have anything to do with it, and the
Right.
daughter's like, no, no, we got to help him. It feels like
You understand both points actually, in a weird
it,
way.
yeah, because the daughter's naive, the mom knows what's going on. It'd
Right.
be like if you're driving around with your kid and they see a homeless person, and it's like, let's stop and help them, which is an innocent thing to do and a good thing to want to do.
Yes.
But then you're older and you realize it's it, help them when you can, but it's a losing battle. You can't help everyone.
That's true.
You
That
know,
is a fact. That is actually science.
or
that is a fact. It's
you
proven.
know, hey, there was an elephant trapped in a fence or something. It's like, I understand the kid wants to help the elephant. That thing weighs thousands of pounds. What the
Ye-
hell are we going to do? Like,
It's true.
this is a thing where the mom knows what the limitations are, and the daughter's trying to push her, not knowing anything about the limitations. And so it's got that kind of angle to it, and I kind of like where they were going with that. And
There's
then,
another angle we're not talking about because of spoilers. Did you like that other angle, which is sort of the darker, horrific stuff regarding what the demons or the violence and all that stuff, the crime? Did that execution work for you?
oh, with the
Yeah, I'm just dancing around it so we don't have
yes,
to.
yes, I think
Okay.
so.
Okay.
I think I know what you're talking about, and yeah, that I was on their side for a bit until
Until you
that
weren't.
that reveal, and I'm like, nope, you're dead to me, buddy.
Yeah, it's a good reveal. It's a pretty interesting reveal too. So, yeah. So, what is a final thought? Okay. So, for me, it feeds. I didn't get the sound mix. Maybe I was in a different, I don't know what happened, but I
Well,
like,
did you watch it at 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone else is asleep?
no, I did not.
I
I,
did, so
oh,
that was a problem.
okay. That was definitely a problem. That is fair. That is a fair point, Eric. But my overall reaction, I really think It Feeds is a very first-rate horror film. I could watch it again. Had some really great tense moments, and there are a lot of great ingredients within this tale. And it's not just one straight enjoyment. There are different ways to enjoy this movie. I'm giving it 4.5 stars, surprisingly so. I was, so- this was my big surprise of the week. It Feeds. What about you, Eric?
I think I'm right there with you. That
Oh,
this is up there with Black Phone for me. And
mm,
other than those two things that bugged the hell out of me, I mean the story's undeniable. The creepy factor is undeniable. This is just a good movie.
I'm so glad that you liked It Feeds. We both have the same rating, 4.5 stars for both of us. Written and directed by Chad Archibald. It's in theaters. It Feeds, that is, in theaters April 18th. Now, finally, we have a couple of recommendations. Well, I will start first. There is a movie called Grand Tour that I am so glad that you did not watch, Eric. That Bruce Purkey, our buddy Bruce Purkey over in the attic, he watched about 45 minutes of Grand Tour and he put on our Google Doc. Bailed on the movie. He bailed on the movie. So let me read first before I give you my review of Grand Tour, the official plot synopsis. Okay, from director Miguel Gomez, the award-winning director of Taboo and Arabian Nights, comes a globe-trotting tale of unrequited love. Gomez, by the way, won Best Director at the 77th Cannes Film Festival, and the movie itself blends screwball comedy and melodrama in this cat and mouse tale between two lovers. Set in 1917, there's this guy named Edward. He's a civil servant for the British Empire. He realizes in a message that his fiancee Molly is coming from London to visit him in colonial Burma. Edward, they have been engaged for 7 years. Edward is scared to get married. So what he does is he boards a ship to go to just another part of Asia to escape Mali. Okay, so he's escaping his ultimate. I guess he's really does not want to get married to Molly, even though he's engaged to her. So the first half of the movie deals with Edward traveling around different parts of Asia to just escape the woman who wants to get married. The second half is Molly realizing that Edward is evading her and she tries to retrace his steps throughout all of Asia to find her Edward. It's an interesting story but it's look, it's shot in black and white. A lot of the actual sets or the scenes with the live action scenes were actually shot in a studio in Portugal, I believe, by Miguel Gomez. So it's very Eric, if you can imagine this is supposedly an international epic, but they're filming everything in studio. So obviously, and you're filming different parts of Asia to replicate it. So the production design, the lighting, I mean, he was talking about in interviews about creating sunshine in a black and white film. It's very ambitious. But then back in 2020, Gomez actually and his team, I believe, they went to these different parts of Asia and shot archival footage of places like the Philippines, Japan, I believe Singapore, China, all of these different areas of Asia. And they took that archival footage from 2020. COVID happened. COVID shut them down for 2 years. But all this archive footage they have from 2020, they put it into their movie from the scenes that they shot in the studio and they created Grand Tour. The archival footage is mainly in grainy color, a lot of it. Maybe if I'm thinking maybe some in black and white. And the way he did the footage was he didn't set the footage in 1917. The archive footage, which is interstitial or just interwoven in the narrative, is archival footage. He's trying to make that archival footage look like the future. So that's totally confusing, and it will confuse people. It will confound people. It will frustrate people. I know Bruce Purkey, he dipped after 45 minutes, but this,
see this.
yeah, this grand tour absolutely swept me away. I love this movie. There's a documentary last year that Bruce and I love called Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. That swept me away as well. I believe Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat got a Best Documentary nomination, Oscar nomination. This movie, there's a reason why Gomez won the Best Director prize at Cannes. This is just an audacious, beautiful, inspiring. And also, by the way, last thing that will make people frustrated is the ending of Grand Tour may really frustrate people. Did not frustrate me. I love the visuals. I love the ambition. I love the story. And I can't wait to see it again. So Grand Tour for me, 5 stars. Currently
Nice.
streaming on MUBI. So if you don't have a subscription on MUBI, get MUBI. I don't. Give MUBI. Thank. The one good thing about Eric Holmes, about our podcast, is we get to see free movies. It eats into our time and our lives, and it feeds the demon. It feeds on our very soul of our lives. We have scars all on our back. Everything's crazy. But no, I love Grand Tour. 5 stars. If you don't have MUBI, maybe give MUBI a shot and start watching Grand Tour. So Eric Holmes, this will be released a little bit later. So we did miss the TCL Chinese theater screening, but this movie that you're going to mention, this documentary, you're going to review, it's an evergreen documentary because the screenings are staggered. So we can use this, you can actually apply this review for whenever this movie comes out in different cities. Eric, what is your recommendation this week?
Yeah, this is a movie directed by Ed Cunningham. It's a follow-up to King of Kong. It's called Arcades and Love Songs, the Ballad of Walter Day. Basically, it just kind of picks up where King of Kong left off. But this one, instead of following...
Oh, and started following Billy Mitchell?
Yeah, instead of following Billy Mitchell...
Is that the guy? I think, yeah.
And Billy Mitchell and the other guy. Oh, Jesus.
Okay, let me
My
find it.
brain sucks so bad. Steve Wiebe. Instead of following them, it's following Walter Day. And they talk about, I guess, his arcade got sued, or there was some litigation going on dealing with him that came to light because of King of Kong. So they kind of tap into that. But also, Walter Day's always wanted to play music. And so they kind of follow his journey of becoming a musician and writing songs. And then ultimately, it kind of culminates into him playing a show in front of a bunch of people, which I guess has been his dream for a period of time since the love of his life left him. And
Back in
that's
85. Yeah.
yeah, that's when all the songs started going in his head. He's always wanted to put these out somewhere. And then he finally got a chance to, and they made a documentary about it. And it's really sweet. I mean, Walter Day, like, he's in King of Kong for a bit. And he's not like the main character, but he's in it a little bit. This one's just totally centered on him. And he's a really sweet guy, kind of the kind of guy you want to root for and like. And yeah, you just get to watch him make music and record it and then play it in front of people. That was a mess.
No worries. Yeah.
But anywho,
It's a sweet movie. Is it worth watching even if you haven't seen The King of Kong as a
I think
standalone?
so.
Okay.
I think so because it's a follow-up to King of Kong, and it helps if you know certain things about King of Kong, but this is kind of its own thing. So if you haven't seen King of Kong, I think you still jump into this one. But if you had seen King of Kong or you haven't seen King of Kong, you watch that first and then this, you're just gonna get that little bit extra from it. But yeah, the final performance that he does when he's playing in front of everyone, it's kind of and I bring up Dreaming Wild a lot, maybe because it's an awesome movie.
Great
But
movie.
you remember at the end of Dreaming Wild when they're playing
Right.
and then they
Yes.
show the actual people playing in front of their actual parents, and you have all that context,
Yes.
and it means a lot more to you.
Yes.
This kind of has some of that because Walter Day's up there, and he's a little nervous playing his songs. His songs are catchy as hell, and he's kind of singing flubbing it a little bit, but not doing too bad. And then I don't know if it was Billy Mitchell or someone in the crowd, one of his friends said, "Hey, that first song didn't do too good, but that second one you really got better." And that touched him. So when he did the third song, like he's playing with like this little extra emotion they didn't have before. It was really touching to watch.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So, what is your rating on this documentary,
Oh.
Arcades and Love Songs, The Ballad of Walter Day? And by the way, we also have to mention that Walter Day is a huge fan of Taylor Swift. That comes up in the documentary.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure
And
there's
in the
other
interview.
Yeah, and the interview, by the way, Eric Holmes also interviewed director Ed Cunningham and Walter Day. You could find that on our Deepest Dream YouTube channel. I will provide links for Eric's interview. So, interviews.
So I'm not sure what the star rate is. I guess 4.5, just for the main thing is at the moment, I think this is the only way you can hear his music. I really like his music, and just following him around, he's a cool, lovable guy. So it's fun to follow him around. Yeah, I would say watch it. If you like King of Kong, definitely watch it. And if you've never seen King of Kong, probably still watch it. If you want to turn on your heart light and you want to get a little emotional charge, especially at the end. And that's the thing. I told you what happens at the end, but it doesn't. You have to see it. Kind of like Dreaming Wild. I can tell you what happens at the end. It's not going to have that same impact unless you're actually watching it. You get the context. That's when it's gonna, because you'll see it coming. I just told you it's coming, but you're gonna watch it. And it's gonna touch you regardless.
So it will hit you in the feels, as the cliche
Yes.
goes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's Arcade and Love Songs, The Ballad of Walter Day. Go to actually its website. It's arcadesandlovesongs.com, I believe, for screening information. And hopefully down the road, it will be streaming wherever, maybe Prime Video or your local streamer. Worth checking out, I guess, according to Eric, 4.5 stars. All right, we're done, Eric Holmes. We're with this episode. Eric is, before he signs off for his sleep, hopefully he's going to get a couple hours sleep. He'll give a very quick spoiler just take on Dead Mail. We're going to record that in a few moments. Eric, anything you want to say finally before we kick it over to Bruce Purkey?
Yes, I did an interview with Carrie Pickett and Don Mickelson. Did Finding Her Beat in
Right.
Minnesota. I mean, they got a documentary that they have a Kickstarter on, and I just interviewed them, so all the stuff will be on the interview. Maybe we put it in the show notes. I don't know, but they got the Kickstarter. They got a new documentary coming out called Uncle Roy. Now, if you've seen Finding Her Beat and Minnesota Mean, you know that these ladies are talented as hell, especially when making documentaries. I have every reason to believe Uncle Roy is going to be awesome. So donate to the Kickstarter if you like.
We'll put the link on the
And
notes.
if you can't, when it comes out, watch it because it's going to be good. I haven't even seen it, but I know they're past and they have a history of making bangers. So I imagine this one's going to be awesome too.
Yes, Eric Holmes has covered their material the last several years. He's a huge fan of their documentaries, huge fan of them as filmmakers. I will put that stuff on our YouTube channel momentarily. When I say momentarily, I don't mean 2 weeks from now. I mean, hopefully in a couple of days. We got to look when their Kickstarter's up. So the sooner the better. I will leave all that information over on our show notes. Very good, Eric Holmes. And before we go, I was going to say, here's Claire, but I still haven't recorded that audio. I'm going to see Claire tomorrow, next 2 days. I will promise folks that I will get her new drop. It's not going to be an audio drop when she was 6. So she's not going to say, thank you, everybody. I think she's going to sound like, thank you, everybody. I'm now 9 years old. We'll see how she sounds. But
is she going to say, Greg, you finally recorded this. It's about time.
It's about time.
Now here's Bruce.
Right. Well, it's about time. And like Eric said, here's Bruce.
Welcome to the Cinem-Attic, the attic of cinema, where I crawl down from the hatch in the ceiling in Eric's house. Is it his full house that I'm in? Am I in like a garage apartment for mother-in-law apartment? I don't know exactly where he keeps me because I only see the inside of it, and I was brought there in a hood, in the trunk of a car. So, I've never known fully how and where I am, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk about movies. This is a different week than normal. Most weeks we have a couple indie movies, we have maybe a documentary, maybe some cheesy action movie, maybe a horror movie thrown in, but this week I have three horror or horror adjacent movies, which for me is great because I'm a horror fan. So And also, it's been kind of a weak year for horror. So far, I don't think there have been that many great horror movies. I mean, I guess Companion is kind of a horror movie, but yeah, nothing that's really kind of. I'm probably forgetting something, but nothing that I can think of that really has kind of branded itself into my brain. Speaking of branded on the brain, that was a Guy Madden movie from early thousands, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, we have 3 horror movies this week. At least I do. I know they're talking about some other stuff as well. And I tried to watch one of the ones that Greg tried that he might be giving 5 stars to, and I couldn't make it through. Maybe I was just in a horror mindset. I needed to watch horror movies. So I'll let you know at least one of these movies has a lot of body horror, pretty grotesque body horror, and shouldn't be a big surprise because one of these movies is directed by David Cronenberg. And the surprise, though, is that's not the one with the really good grotesque body horror. Okay, this week I'm watching or talking about The Shrouds. That's the David Cronenberg movie. Talking about Dead Male, which I think is going to be coming out in Shudder soon. And another little movie called The Ugly Stepsister. And that is the 3 movies I've got. Let's hit it. All right, first up, let's talk about Dead Male. Dead Male is directed by Joe DeBoer and Kyle McConaughey, or McConaughey. I'm not sure the pronunciation exactly on that. Starring as Jasper Thomas Boykin, Trent John Fleck, and Josh Sterling Macer Jr. Now, this movie really kind of caught me off guard. So first of all, Shudder. I like a lot of the stuff that Shudder does and Shudder produces, although sometimes you get a lot of middle of the road kind of horror, indie horror offerings as well. But on the other side, they'll also often find a lot of interesting off the wall and or international stuff. So they do good and bad. I think the one thing they almost always do not great is movie posters don't necessarily really give you a flavor of the movie per se in a really clear way. So this movie poster for Dead Male is a kind of some bloody hands and a scrap of paper with some writing on it and some kind of bloody, and you're like, okay, Dead Male, I get it. I thought this might be an anthology, and maybe each story is based on a lost letter or package or something. Which, hey, that would be a perfectly acceptable reason to have a movie called Dead Male. Sure, let's do that. That's not what this movie is. And almost this movie, like I said, horror adjacent. This is kind of a horror adjacent, but it is kind of horror. It starts out though with, first of all, the look of this movie. If you've seen the beginning of Longlegs, where you kind of have this, it looks like that old grainy, like a 35 millimeter, maybe 8 millimeter blown up to be big enough to watch a movie on. So it really has that grain from the 70s or 80s, especially the 70s. Although I think this is supposed to take place in the 80s. It has that grain and it just has that kind of washed out like color palette, and it just feels like that old school look to it. And that's fine. I mean, you see that sometimes to get that kind of gritty, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre-ish feel. Although that's not the tone of this movie. Although the point is mostly just to give you that idea that, okay, we're in a period here, a period piece. And you see this small little house out in the middle of nowhere, unremarkable. A man crawls out of the front door. He's obviously in distress. He's tied up. He's bloodied. He's crawling across the lawn, and on this side of the street next to the house is a mailbox. He struggles, and he's struggling to get this scrap of mail into the mailbox, and another man runs out of the house behind him, and just as the mail gets put in the slot, the man who's chasing him catches the tied up man. So you know the tied up man is recaptured, and that's your setup. And then you flash forward to the post office, a little local, seems like country post office in a pretty small area, and you follow some mail, and there's just it's kind of a couple women that work in the front area, It's just nondescript post office. He feels like a real post office if you've been in one, especially in a small town. Just kind of one of those most desolate places. But everyone there seems to be in pretty good spirits, and they're taking mail down, and they're taking it down to Jasper. And Jasper is kind of their expert. He's the guy who can find a package with no markings and a necklace inside, and somehow he's going to call people and pull up maps, and all this is very analog, except for a phone, like an actual hardwired phone. This guy doesn't have any computers really much of anything to like use to search for things. He doesn't have Google. He just can call people and he can look up in manuals and he can look at maps and he can try to figure out where he thinks this mail came from or is going to. And of course, this bloody scrap of a letter that he gets is one of those things. And I almost don't want to give you much more information about this movie, except that I was intrigued right out the beginning. Oh, he's going to like hunt this down and we're going to try to save this guy who's obviously, maybe one of many people that's trapped in this house. And that is part of the story. But I would say very quickly it takes a turn. I don't even want to give you the turn it takes because it's a really good turn. Let's just say it takes a very drastic turn within about the first 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, well, then where's this movie going now? And then it flashes back. And you basically I would say that maybe the bulk of this movie, probably, I don't know, 75% of this movie is the story of who the man is who's captured in that house, how he got captured in that house, who captured him, and why. And it becomes kind of a character study, especially of the person who captured him. And I would say that that person, I can tell you this is not like a spoiler. Trent is the villain, right? He is and I say in this case, very comparable to, and it's not a surprise because you can think, oh, there's a guy captured in a house, right? There are some definite parallels to Misery in this, and I'm not going to say exactly what the parallels are, but you can kind of infer some ideas here. But Trent, played by John Fleck, is pulling off an amazing performance here, and it is such a unique and odd, and like I said, a very focused kind of character study with mystery elements and horror elements. And I ended up loving this movie. It's got a very unique kind of a retro synth kind of a score, which is absolutely fitting for the movie. And when you find out the actual reason everything's happening, even more fitting. There's a level of kind of, not want to say sci-fi, but like of nerdiness to this movie as well that I really, really enjoyed. And then I guess I'll give you a quick spoiler at the end of this Cinem-Attic episode, because there is one little thing about the end of this movie that I loved. And it may not be real and it may be real. If it's either way, I really loved it. If it is real, I love it even more. Some great closing credits on this movie as well. This just has the feel of an indie movie made by somebody who's going to make some really interesting works. So Joe DeBoer and Kyle McGonaghy, I really, really, really love this movie. I'm going to go 4.5. One other thing. So little horror movies like this, little as in like not big budget, not a huge scope. This one is more tense and more, like I said, character based and not as like scary or gross, but it's engrossing. And the other thing about a movie like this is you have characters that are very small and usually throwaways in movies like this. And I don't think any of them are really thrown away. Like for example, as I mentioned, the guy who's kind of the dead male expert, the Jasper character. And in a lot of movies like this, he would be, unless he was the main character, he would be like kind of a nothing character. He's not the main character, but he's not a nothing character. He has a real point to this. The women in the front of the post office end up having real stakes and roles in this, which I didn't think they would. After the first 15 minutes, I thought, well, that's the last we'll ever see of them. And I'm not like spoiling anything because it doesn't. You'll see it doesn't hurt the story. You don't know anything by knowing that. But they end up having a role in this as well. So I really, really appreciated that too as a storytelling kind of aspect to this movie. So once again, I cannot recommend this enough for horror fans especially, but people that are kind of not fully horror fans, but kind of like real can-do, gritty indie movies. I think it works on that element, that kind of aspect as well. 4.5 stars for Dead Male. This is one of those I talk about how during the year with Letterboxd, I set up just a file and I call it watched in like this, watched in 2025, right? Every time I watch a movie, I drop it into Letterboxd. And then I have another list that says best of 2025. And every time I watch a movie that I think could be one of my favorite movies of 2025, I throw it in, also in the best of 2025. And this one got thrown in there. Now at the end of the year, I might drop some or add some back in, but it's a really great way to kind of not forget about a movie that maybe you saw in, February or March. By the time October comes, you can go back and look and like, oh yeah, I love that movie, and it's actually better than the movie I'm watching now. So it's a way to kind of not have that recency bias that often, stacks all of your favorite movies from the end of the year, and you forget about all those great movies from the first 6 months of the year. Okay, from Dead Mail, we go to The Ugly Stepsister. Now, this is directed by Emily Blichfeld. I could be saying it wrong. Blichfeld, probably one of those two. I believe this is a Norwegian production, but I think there's Swedish in there, there's Polish, there's a lot of different aspects, but it's Scandinavian for sure. And I was concerned when I first saw this, only because the poster, once again, the poster is like the foot, like Cinderella is kind of a slipper, or the shoe with a bloody toe, bloody at the toe of the foot, and like a big, like, I don't know, cleaver next to it. And then in pink letters, kind of script letters, it says The Ugly Stepsister. And I'm like, okay, this could be a really cheesy, over the top horror movie. I was really concerned because I thought, oh, this is going to be like this whole new wave of, fairy tale, like old, out of the into the public media properties that are all becoming these super slapdash horror movies, like the whole Winnie the Pooh. I don't really calling it the dark fairy tale universe. I don't know. They have some term for it. Winnie the Pooh and Peter Pan and Bambi, and they're trying to do all these things, and it's like really cheesy, really quick, slapped together horror movies that are just not good, in my opinion. This movie is its own thing. Now, if you know anything about the Grimm's fairy tales, you know that they are quite dark and violent, much more so than the versions that get put out by Disney or whomever. And if you know specifically Cinderella, I was always aware of this, but I think I just went back this week and read it because I wanted to make sure how much I remembered of it. But if the original Cinderella, I mean, when the prince is running around trying to find the person who was Cinderella, who fits the shoe, the stepsisters and stuff are like chopping off their toes and things to try to fit into the shoe to make sure they can get in there. And that had to have been kind of the inspiration for this movie. This movie goes a lot farther, but that should give you a little more of an idea of kind of the inspiration and the reason that this movie might be the way it is. Now, I talked earlier about all these kind of, dark fairy tale version crappy movies that are being made these days. This movie is much more a ugly stepsister to the substance than it is to those movies. So if you want something as a touchstone, something like Titan or The Substance, these kind of really in your face versions of kind of women's and lives and the roles women have to play or are expected to play, and kind of really taking a very violent and very, interesting approach to it, then this movie is more along those lines. Now, this does a little different than those movies, and it does it in a different way, but I kind of appreciate a similar DNA there. Basic concept is what you might think it is. It is like the story of Cinderella. You have a woman who marries into a, quote, rich family, and she has two daughters, Alma and Elvira. And Elvira is the main one we're following here. And those are the, quote, ugly stepsisters. And Cinderella, his name isn't Cinderella in the thing, her name's Agnes, but that's basically Cinderella. Agnes is the daughter of the guy that already lives in the rich house, who is taking in the mom and the two daughters, Alma and Elvira. So she's taking in they're taking in these two girls, and then she's like obviously kind of threatened, and there's kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, antagonism between the two. Now, the opening setup, you're thinking like, oh, the way they're setting this up is, Alma, quote, Cinderella, is going to be the spoiled, rich, beautiful woman who's going to get everything, and we're just totally going to be sympathizing with the kind of trod upon, wants to be liked, but no one likes her because she's not as beautiful Elvira, the quote, ugly stepsister. You're going to feel like she's going to be the one we're going to following and be the whole most sympathetic to. I guess in the overall kind of approach to the movie, that's kind of true, but also it's much more complicated than that because I think this movie is more about how the really, I guess, monstrous and terrible standards and the people that are the adults in this world, the men and the women. The women are complicit with the horribleness of the whole world, and the men are definitely driving the whole world. And I think in a sense this movie is kind of like how these women are basically, especially Elvira, our main character, are essentially kind of like transformed into monsters. They're become ugly because of partly because of their own like desire to be something that they're not, actually meant to be, and the also the pressure to be that as well. So it's outside and internal. So it's partly their quote fault, and it's also the fault of the world around them. And either way, it basically transforms and twists Elvira. So basic story though is they get there, the father immediately dies, so all you have left is stepmother, Cinderella, and then the two stepsisters. Alma and Elvira. Alma doesn't do a whole lot. She's there. But Elvira, though, immediately, she is in love with the prince, as you might expect. And the prince has this book of poetry that she reads all the time. And she's one of those kind of pie in the sky, dreaming of this guy. All her whole life, she's dreaming of how it'll be. And you get a few of those little sequences. But she's going to do everything she can to be the most beautiful woman in the land, and she's going to be the one that he picks because they're going to, of course, have a quote ball, all the things you're expecting. But the way it's done, I can't describe it without you experiencing it. It is obviously a satire and to some degree and a commentary to some degree on the way that plastic surgery and all these various like physical tortures to some degree people put themselves through currently to become whatever standard of beauty they think they want to become. In this movie, they're taken to a very medieval extreme of that, and this is where the horror comes in. So first of all, there's a psychological horror of just seeing a person unravel. It's almost like an origin story for a villain for Elvira, which is quite awesome as well. But on top of that, every different effort she takes, I'm purposely not describing them because if you're a horror fan, you're going to enjoy this. If you're not a horror fan, do not watch this movie because it might sound like it's just kind of this cheesy allegory, but it goes hard in the gore department. And that's the part that you might not understand if you haven't gone in with a horror mindset. But if you like horror movies, especially horror movies that don't shy away from being gory, this movie, it will give you some payoff. Will it be constantly gory all the way throughout? This is not as over the top in that sense as The Substance, but in the same way The Substance would have, I don't know, like a scene with a needle and really like let you watch it. This movie has moments where it really lets you watch it. And I'm not going to tell you what those moments are because they're very fun to discover. But let's just say you can imagine various beauty elements that a woman might want. And if you were in much older times and not able to achieve them with modern, plastic surgery, how would you achieve those effects? Well, they achieve them in very brutal ways, and we watch them. And some of the brutal ways are performed by supposed experts, and some of those brutal ways are performed by just the sheer imagination and ingenuity and tenacity of Elvira. And Elvira, oh my gosh. Earlier I was talking about the character of Trent, played by John Fleck, and I think he's be Academy Award nominated for Dead Male. I'm going to put the name of Elvira down. Leah Myron as Elvira. She puts on a performance here, and she is so driven and so angry and so like, I mean, disturbed and so unhappy. And when she goes through pain, she can scream like, I mean, it's a fantastic performance, fantastic central performance by Leah Myron. The Ugly Stepsister, another 4.5 star for me. Both this one and Dead Male could go up to 5 stars, but I love these movies both, and they both go on my best of the year so far list. I think that fans of horror, a certain kind of fan, a fan that's looking for a certain kind of movie. Like I said before, if you liked movies like The Substance, not as quote fun as that, but definitely as audacious in a lot of ways. It's just not quite as stylishly, crazy. But boy, there's some good stuff in the Ugly Stepsister, and I want to say there's a final, let's just say in the classic story, there's the moment where the stepsister wants to show that she can fit into the shoe to the prince. And that moment is coming to play for Elvira. And the way that kind of denouement and kind of transformation occurs for her is quite fantastic. Some people might be a little bit upset about a kind of an abrupt ending here. Um, I appreciate it, and then there's a final shot that I really appreciate, and partly that is because of I think about how the original story ends, and I think it's kind of a nod to that. There's also a post-credit sequence. It's not necessary to see, but it's kind of a fun joke, an ongoing joke about the father, the basically absent father, but not absent father through the whole movie. There's kind of a joke about what he's been up to the whole time, and you kind of see the final, I guess, quote, payoff of that. Okay, moving on to the Shrouds. The Shrouds by one Mr. David Cronenberg. Now, the quote, "Am I saving the best for last with the Shrouds?" No, I am not. Okay, what do I say about David Cronenberg? I was thinking about this. I don't even know exactly what I'm going to rate this yet. I think I know what I'm going to rate this. And I think I'm strong on it. So first of all, David Cronenberg. I've loved some of his stuff. I have not loved some of his stuff. I was thinking as I was watching this, is there another director other than maybe M. Night Shyamalan? Between M. Night Shyamalan and David Cronenberg, who do you think has a bigger ratio of great ideas to terrible writing? Now, they both have great movies, and I think that overall, Shyamalan's movies are more fun for me to watch because he usually, if he has a great idea or an interesting idea, he may execute it terribly, but he always does it in a really fun and entertaining way. And there's always a level of, I don't know, humor or there's like a energy or something to it that makes it it's fun to watch a lot of times. It's not like dull, like downbeat experience. But with Cronenberg, that can be the case sometimes. And even when they aren't like that, sometimes they're just so preposterous. They just don't quite work. Now his older stuff, for some reason, it worked a little better in his older stuff for me. Maybe that's because it was a little more, there's a little more of a camp appeal. And also at the time they were a little more, I don't know, just a little more visceral and outrageous for their time period. There's so much stuff that's been out since then. I think it's a little more, it takes a little more for become outrageous with Cronenberg. But I would contend that Cronenberg's at his best when he's not writing his own ideas. And I think of things like The Fly, which is a previous property that he's adapting. You've got The Dead Zone, which is Stephen King, of course. And then you've got The History of Violence. And you've got Eastern Promises, which I think are both based on other works. Crash, to some degree. Crash is based on another work, I think, but I don't think it works great. There's a lot of other stuff that's kind of like, it's okay. But sometimes he kind of gets out over his skis, as you might say. Well, this is another one of those. His most recent ones definitely haven't been working for me very well at all. In fact, the last one I never even watched. I just believed that the hype, which was to me negative enough, I don't think I want to spend time with it. Okay, here's what you got with the Shrouds. You've got Karsh, played by Vincent Cassel, which you may know from a lot of things, but what's the thing they think of most of? Irreversible, probably. And you've got Becca, also known as Terry, also known as Honey, Hunny, played by Diane Kruger. There's your two main characters. You've got Guy Pearce playing a strangely nerdy Maury, and you've got Steve Swissman playing Jerry Eckler. It's like a scientist guy. So anyway, Karsh, our main character, what is he doing at the beginning of this movie? He's on a date. His wife's been dead a little while, and he's still having a hard time getting over it. And I guess he keeps going on blind dates with women. He's rich. He is at this restaurant, which is his restaurant. It's called like the Shrouds in the whatever, Golden Green or something like that. And he's having this, meal with her. And pretty quickly he starts talking about his dead wife, I think. Well, there's also shrouds in these big glass cases at the restaurant. Anyway, what you end up finding out is that this is a restaurant he owns, basically right next to the cemetery that he created, because he created this technology. It's a Cronenberg movie, so obviously there's going to be some kind of future technology, and the future technology that he created is he created these kind of metal mesh shrouds that you put around dead people. And he takes her out during the date to show her these graves that he's made. They're like very uniform, kind of old-fashioned headstones, but very square and angular. And they have screens on them, like touch screens. And you have the app in your phone specifically keyed just to you for your person who's dead, in this case his wife. So imagine he's on his date and he's taking this woman out to show her his wife's grave next to the restaurant that he owns with a whole bunch of these shroud future graves. And then you pull up your app and it lets you see the decaying body inside of the grave. And that is the absolutely preposterous idea that is the centerpiece of this movie. And of course, she's horrified and thought, this is like worst first date ever. And she's done. She's like, well, you're a nice guy, but nope. But the whole point of right out of the gate, I'm starting to laugh because this movie takes itself very seriously, I feel like. But then sometimes I'm not, is it supposed to be funny? I don't think it is. But this is one of those movies that I think would try to, kind of like Shyamalan does sometimes, try to after the fact say like, oh, well, I meant it to be kind of funny. And I think like, I don't think he means this to be funny. I've seen a bunch of reviews that are things like the most personal piece that Cronenberg has done in a long time, because apparently his actual wife has died recently, which terrible. And writing a movie about that experience or that feeling or that grief, absolutely valid. This movie though is, to me, not the movie to do that with. And I shouldn't be laughing, but I am because it's ridiculous. The movie's ridiculous. First of all, who wants this? Like, who are you selling this to? He makes it, and they make it seem like this is a elite, like highly desirable, kind of a boutique thing that people are going to want. Very futuristic, like very Black Mirror, right? But no one's going to want to have this. Not no one. There's going to be some people. But first of all, most people are not going to want to have a live stream inside the grave of their loved one to watch them rot. And that's what he's all about. Anyway, he's watching her, he's looking at her body. And I got to say that, first of all, another thing here, I feel like this is like megalopolis for, this is megalopolis. I can't say the word for David Cronenberg. This is a passion project that someone should have been saying all the way along, like, nope, no, that's a bad idea. No, don't do that. The 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 images were given of the decaying corpses in the graves. They look like cartoons. And I think they're supposed to look realistic. They don't. They don't look even remotely realistic, but I think they're supposed to. I don't know. Please, someone answer this. Eric, what do you think? He notices some like growths on the bones, and he thinks that's unnatural, and he starts to think that someone's planted like like things in there, electronic. What are these? Are these like devices? And so it's becoming this kind of a conspiracy theory. And then I would say probably 2/3 of this movie is a very boring conspiracy theory techno thriller in quotes, where you're supposed to wonder like who is trying to stop or infiltrate his system of electronic graves, and is there some kind of corporate espionage going on, and there's vandalism goes on in the grave site, and nerdy Guy Pearce is there to help him. Oh, and there's these weird flashbacks where he sees his wife who was dying of a degenerative disease and kept having body parts cut off. So, of course, there's body damage to her, and that's a whole Cronenbergian kind of thing. Oh, did I mention that, because Diane Kruger plays three characters, she also plays his dead wife's sister, which, of course, he might be attracted to as well, but she's a dog groomer. Why is she? It's just ridiculous scenes of her being a dog groomer. Oh, and she plays Honey. Did I mention that? Yes. Honey is his AI assistant, which is like a cartoon version of his ex-wife, who has really, really laughable dialogue to him where she pops up. This feels like, and there's movies that do this, it's like when you get old dudes, speaking as an old dude, you get old dudes writing movies about a teenager experience and it just doesn't seem authentic. This seems like an old dude making a movie about technology, trying to be cutting edge with, sci-fi technology, and it doesn't seem realistic. It's like he's discovered smartphones and he thinks, oh, and AI assistants, and he thinks he's really going out on a limb, like where these things could go, like these could go into really crazy dark places, like digital graves and AI assistants that are cartoons of your dead wife. It's like, you're blowing our mind, dude. No, no, you're not. It's making me laugh. There are so many horrifically, laughably stupid moments of dialogue in this movie. There's there's a moment where he's having what is it, the fantasy of his wife coming back after she'd had one of her breasts removed because has a degenerative disease, right? And he has some weird like dialogue with her about how that was my favorite one, meaning his favorite breast of hers, and it's just so laughable. It's so terrible, but it's not laughable enough to be fun. This is not a 1-star banger. It could be a 1-star banger, which is like so bad, but also just so great. Like, last Shyamalan's last one, the Trap movie. To me, that was a 1-star banger because it was so much fun, but so terrible. This is just, oh my gosh, it's like 2 hours long. It's way too long. It's way too dumb. It's way too thinking it's blowing our minds when it's not. It's way too tedious. It's it's just it's sad. I see Miller making another Road Warrior movie, and I say, keep bringing him on. Bring him on, man. Even I know people kind of got really bored by it, but even the last Scorsese movie, I'm like, yeah, keep doing it. You're still bringing it at your age. Cronenberg, I might be telling them to hang it up. You might need to hang it up. You might need to get your digital gravestone and get that all prepped up and fired up, dude, because I think you're done with movies. You can at least bury the rest of your movies in there. I'm sorry, David. I'm done with it. Unless you can really turn it around, I think I might be done. All right, I'm gonna go 2 stars for the Shrouds. That's that's all I can give you. I wish I could do more, but I just can't. Last but not least, I was going to give a full, kind of a quick rundown of the season 7 of Black Mirror. I don't think I'm going to go ahead and do that much other than say it's a solid season overall. It's definitely got at least, I think it has like 5 or 6 episodes. I would say at least 3 of them are pretty darn good, and the other ones are decent. There's no super bad ones in the bunch, but there's a few good ones there. It's one of the first seasons though that kind of relies a little bit on sequels. There's kind of a sequel to Bandersnatch, if I remember correctly. That's the name of it. Was it Bandersnatch? I think so. And there's a sequel to the Callister one, which actually is pretty good. It's a pretty good sequel. But anyway, maybe we'll bring that back, but probably not. We got enough movies to do next week. I think next week we're gonna be getting ready for our Patreon. Just don't forget our Patreon was for spring. It was for, well, we had Trumbo and one other one I can't remember, but they probably already mentioned it. Anyway, 3 interesting movies at least this week that we talked about in my episode, part of the episode. I would highly recommend Dead Male and highly recommend The Ugly Stepsister. And depending on your taste, one or the other may not be for you, or neither might be for you if you're really not into horror at all. But if you're into interesting, unique indie horror, I think both of them are fine entries into this year's horror list. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to crack the hatch and get back up into the attic because I'm only allowed so much time down here in the real world before Mr. Eric gets mad at me. I feel like I want a sign out, but I better not do it because it might involve swearing. I want to swear at some of our leaders in the world right now. I feel like we are living in we are in the post-apocalypse. Are we in the post-apocalypse? What are we in right now? What's going on? Can you help me? Help me. Eric, give me a steady mind here. I don't know what's going on in the world. People are going crazy out there. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed the show. Hope you got a few great recommendations. I know Greg has a few there that I didn't get to. One that I bailed out on, which I won't mention because it's not fair to the filmmaker. But I'm not going to say what it is, but it might involve a tour that's kind of grand. See ya.